Today we conclude our stewardship witnesses from members of our congregation with Hannah Cuffari, who, as she will tell you in her story, was born at St. Peter's and has been involved with St. Peter's her whole life, and now is a member of Peter's Rock and a member of our vestry. Hannah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah Cuffari, and I have been going to St. Peter's Church ever since I was born back in 1995. When Father Dirk asked me to speak today on this year's stewardship theme of saying yes, he asked me to consider the things I treasure in life and how saying yes has enabled me to grow in my faith. Well, I look back on my 24 years of life, and I would like to say I can pinpoint different milestones when saying yes has had a huge impact on my life. Now let me start with my younger days. I wasn't always willing to come to church, and I didn't always say yes to participating in Sunday school. But being where I am now, I am glad that I went to church. I was able to participate in things like youth group, Bellissima Ringers, kids choir, and occasionally sing in Peter's Rock. And although I may have reluctantly said yes to some of those things, it helped me to start to build my bond to the church and begin to grow in my faith. I continued to grow in my faith throughout my middle school years, especially during confirmation season. It had come to that time in my life to pick a mentor, create that special bond with them, and really dive into the word of the Lord. I hold this memory very near and dear to my heart because I was officially a member of the Episcopal Church, something that I have come to appreciate more and more now that I've gotten older. And this would also be a memory I could share with my mother, who also said yes to being confirmed right here in this church. Knowing that I shared something very special with my mother set a great foundation for me to grow in my faith. Now, this is also around the time my mother was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, something no one is ever jumping to say yes to. When this happened, I was still very young and still coming to understand what this now meant for our family. For those of you who knew my mother, you knew she could talk to anyone about anything, and all while doing it with a smile. She was a very easy person to get along with and was always making new friends in the church. And this battle with cancer led her to lean on her church friends, and they created the strongest bond I have ever seen in a group of people. This act of perseverance and strength shown by my mother and her ability to say, yes, I'm fighting this thing, has stuck with me and enabled me to say yes myself, so I could support her while she fought her battle against this horrible disease. Looking back, I was always amazed at how selfless my mother was, always reaching out to those in need, being there for people who didn't really have anyone in their life, whether that was just sitting there and listening and talking with them, or making them dinners or helping them run an errand. She even was great at supporting me at my after-school activities, or helping me with my schoolwork or writing papers for college applications, which is one thing I think we can all agree we don't enjoy doing. And she did all this even when she wasn't feeling great herself. This brings me to my next stage in my life, where I was ready to embark on my journey to start college. My brother was starting high school, and I was off to attend Grove City College in Western Pennsylvania, which is about an hour north of Pittsburgh. This now put me 7 hours away from home, something that I was going to take time to get used to. I will admit, my first semester there was really rough for me. I was homesick, calling my parents 3 times a day, and was reluctantly going to my classes. I was fortunately able to come home a couple of times throughout my first semester, and during those times I was home, I looked to my church for any advice or guidance since I was really in a low place. Something a lot of people don't know is that I had almost completed all the paperwork to become a full-time student at Brookdale for the next spring semester. But I remember talking to a specific person, Reverend Susan, who some of you may remember, and I very distinctly remember our conversation. It was over in the rectory, and she said that any choice I made wouldn't be the wrong one, and to have faith in God, and that He would lead me toward the right path. I took this with me back to school to finish my first semester, and it led me to meeting my future sorority sisters. Now, I know sororities get a bad rep, but with Grove City being a private Presbyterian college, these sororities were solely recognized and established at the college, some more than 100 years ago, to help promote fellowship, stewardship, and extend a philanthropic hand in the community of Grove City. That being said, I had met my future sorority sisters, and eventually I said yes to staying at school because my sisters made it worth being there, and I remained there for the next 3.5 years. And now I have the best lifelong friends I could ever ask for friends who would help lift me up in my times of need. 3 years later, and I was approaching my last semester of college and about to earn my degree. My last semester turned out to be one of the hardest semesters of my undergraduate career. In March of 2017, about halfway through my last semester, my mother lost her battle to cancer, and I had to find some way to carry on and finish school. I went back after taking on a major loss to finish the semester, and I was struggling with my relationship I had with God at this time. When I returned to school, the support I received from my friends was what I needed to finish out the semester strong, and surely God was present in this moment. My friends really allowed me to come to them whenever I needed, and they never questioned it or became angry with the amount of time I was spending with them. My friends opened their rooms to me and made it known that I was welcome, even if they weren't there, just in case I wanted to get away from the bustle of campus. Moving forward a couple months to May of 2017, I graduated and moved back home, and now it was time to start my life. Now, I will mention that during my time at college, I had neglected to find a church to call home because Sundays were my study days and also my days to sleep in. But I knew that when I finally returned home, I could come back to St. Peter's. Knowing I could come back after a difficult last semester gave me a sense of comfort. I knew I wanted to be more involved in the church, whether that was singing or becoming part of a group, and I knew that I wanted to strengthen my relationships within the church. Not just my relationships with the congregation, but my relationship with God. Of course, when I returned to church after college, I found myself almost immediately singing with Peter's Rock. Music is a huge part of my life, and I knew if I wanted to keep up my passion of singing, Peter's Rock would help me pursue that passion, all while continuing to strengthen my relationship with God. Singing with Peter's Rock is something I look forward to every month because it gives me a chance to spread God's word through song, which is probably for the best since I'm not too great at spoken prayer. As I became part of Peter's Rock, I saw where God was leading me in the church, and I was quickly approached by Lucinda, who asked me to become a part of the vestry. I didn't know much about what being a member of the vestry entailed, but after my first meeting as a member, I soon realized that this was a chance for me to be part of a great group of parishioners and to represent and be the voice of the St. Peter's congregation. I also remember Father Dirk telling me I could add a younger perspective to the group since I'm a millennial and part of the younger generation in the church. However, I don't know if I've held up to my part of that. I hope I have. Being a part of the vestry these past 2 years has allowed me to get to know some of the parishioners whose families have been here for many generations. It has allowed me to sit back and really listen to their stories of what hardships they may be going through that month, or the major life events that they may be celebrating that month. It's through this storytelling that I'm able to observe where other people in my congregation are in their faith journey. Being surrounded by a great group of people every month gives me the chance to make those connections, and it also lets me know that if I'm ever in need, I have even more people I can turn to. So I wanted to thank everyone at St. Peter's for making this place a home for me, a place that I can come back to and lean on in times of need or even in times of celebration. St. Peter's has been and will remain my refuge and a cornerstone in my life, even if and when I decide to move away. St. Peter's is a place where I can go to ground myself and to find the support I need, especially when I'm faced with tough decisions and tough times. St. Peter's is where I grew up and became a member of the Episcopal Church. St. Peter's is where I've been able to share my love and joy of music, and it's also where I've met the kindest and most selfless people. So in closing, Father Dirk, thank you for giving me the chance to share my word this morning, and thank you all for listening.